everyone. If you think like the typical person who has a lot of ambitions and talks a lot about how they're going to be successful later on in the future, but they actually do nothing about it, and really and truly they're just a lazy person, then you're going to end up being like that person and you're going to be unsuccessful as well. So, my message very simply is just do not think about the typical person. And a lot of these people could be your friends, it could be some close people, but people who has a lot of ambitions to succeed, and they talk a lot about how they want to be this and how they want to be that, but really and truly their actions don't correlate, and their actions are completely different to what they talk about. This is something that is actually very common at most people nowadays in the world, especially in the Western society, where there's a lot of opportunities to be successful and to be rich and wealthy, that they think that just by default, because they're growing up in these conditions, or they just think that as soon as they wake up, or maybe one day in the future, they're going to wake up and they're going to have it all sorted out and figured out, and they're going to be successful. And I've noticed with a lot of these people, they're usually people who are in the early 20s or teenagers, or just like very young people, and they think that the typical time to succeed is when they're 25 and over, or once they hit 30, then they're going to be a millionaire. But the thing is, you have to take the steps beforehand, and your younger years are the years when you have to actually start putting the work in, and then later on you'll be successful. My message is very simple. By default, you're not going to make it. And what I mean by that is the way the world is, conditioned, and the way the world's set out for everyone in the world, you're not going to make it if you don't put the work in. So if you just do the typical go to school, go to university, and then get a degree, get a job, and then just work for the next 40, 50 years away, personally, this is not a life that I want to live. And if you follow that route, and you have the same, and at the same time, under the same breath, you have ambitions to be successful and to be rich, it's not going to work. You have to actually break out the cycle. And this is what is most commonly known as the matrix nowadays. And no, I'm not any like spokesperson, I'm not an ambassador for the team against the matrix or anything. But what I've truly learned is, after observing, after putting myself in complete isolation in my room and just thinking and observing the way the world works in so many different ways. And again, I'm somebody who needs to learn a lot. Like I still don't feel like I've learned enough. I just consider myself to be a student of knowledge. So literally, just to simply put, the world is not always a fair place. It's actually mostly not a fair place. People have been brought up to think this way, where, if you do kindness, expect kindness back. No, especially as a Muslim, we know that whatever we got to do, all of our actions that we do should be for the sake of Allah. And if we don't get our reward in this world, we're going to get our reward in the next world. And it's as simple as that, but if we're talking about this world as it is, it's not a fair place. You could work hard, you could work 100 times harder than the next person, because of a few reasons, a few circumstances that may be out of your control, that other person becomes more successful than you. So this is very important to understand, that by default you're not going to make it. And as I always say, I want to make my videos as short as possible, but just to elaborate on my message, by default you're not going to make it, is something that people do not understand, and people are literally deluded at this point. There's a lot of people I know who talk a lot, about wanting to be this and that and this and that, and no matter how much motivation or principles you try to teach them, or no matter how many failures, or no matter what circumstance they're in, they're always going to find an excuse internally or externally to not actually get up and do the work. I can't explain it in any other way. If you've got ambitions to be such and such, best believe that you've got to put the work in to do it. And a lot of people think that they could just live a typical life, follow the typical route, and they're going to be successful. I hope that no one else thinks this way anymore. We're in the new year 2025, and I feel like over the past few years, our social media has progressed, and it's now become a staple in our society. We've understood that, not everything is a fair game anymore. People could, with a lot worse morals and values than you, could do a lot less work than you, and they could end up being more rich, and they could be a lot more successful in a lot of ways than you. But again, as a Muslim, just a separate reminder, which is that, you know, if you do everything for the sake of God, if you do everything for the sake of Allah, you will get your rewards back, if not in this life, then in the next. So you obviously have to work in a dignified way, but you also have to put the work in to be successful. You know, you have to push. You have to push. So yeah, my message is very simple, guys. If you like this video, then make sure you like, make sure you subscribe as well. Comment down below any thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.